Hello everyone, this is Blender Guppy. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can do the edge split panel cut detail using Creative Flow. Okay, let's just start with a plane. Although you can do it with a cube or a closed mesh like that, let's just start with a plane because of the nature of the modifiers that we're using is better demonstrated using just a simple plane. Okay, so let's start with you can forego the mirror if you're using an asymmetrical model, but for this one, I'm going to use symmetry in the XY axis and then add the solidify modifier using the draw modifiers. The use mirror modifier is already toggled on because the object is already using the mirror modifier. Press F9 to bring the redo panel back. It's gone. And that's because we haven't okayed or executed the script. So draw modifiers, toggle on, use solidify modifier, and then adjust the solidify thickness. You can readjust using the same operator. And then we need to add a bevel modifier to this, or an edge split. Yeah, let's start with the bevel first before the cuts. Okay, so that's solidify modifier, and then we have the bevel modifier using the micro bevel operator. So use bevel modifier and adjust the amount or the offset or the width of the bevel. And then I'm going to use just one segment, but for this to work, for this to look like a round edges, go on to harden the normals, toggle this on. But in order for this to work, you have to set the you have to use auto smooth on that, and make sure that the angle you're using are matching up in micro bevel and the auto smooth operator. Okay, so the point of the bevel modifier is to make the cuts obvious or appear. Okay, so let us make the cuts or the initial cuts. Okay, Control Shift X in edit mode. We have the edges marked sharp, and F9 to bring up the redo panel, and click the add edge split modifier. This will split the mesh based on the marked sharp edges, and split solidify modifier. This will position the edge split modifier on top of the solidify modifier, and that will make the cuts appear, plus the combination of the bevel modifier. So split, and we have this. Okay, and this is the, if you're planning to do this manually without the add-on, this is the order of the modifiers that you have to follow, okay, in the source mesh. So mirror, edge split, do not split via angle, only split by the sharp edges, the marked sharp edges. So the result of these two is then solidified, but without the bevel modifier, you cannot see the effect of the split edges and the solidified combo. So in order to see that, you have to turn on bevel. You have to add a bevel modifier. Okay, so now all we have to do is design the mark sharp patterns to create something. Okay, so for marking the edges sharp, you can continue to use this, or Control E for the edge specials menu. Mark sharp. Okay, mark sharp. There we go. a good thing about this is that you can keep the quad topology. You can just design using quad topology. For angular edges, you can use the knife. Press A to snap to angles. So mark sharp. You can just keep marking sharp, and this will also work with uh, stuff like character armor. You can create the armor out of planes and just add the solidify in the bevel and the edge split modifier, and you can just detail the armor assets that way, and just bake the panel cuts afterwards. So it's a lot easier doing that instead of just this is what they call non-destructive method of achieving design elements, and in this case the panel cuts. Okay. Um, Before we go on any further, why the marked sharp edges? Because I just released Final Cuts yesterday, Final Cut add-on, and this also takes advantage of the marked sharp edges to create Final Cuts, but it doesn't work the same way as I've demonstrated using the modifiers. It works using Bemesh, Python Bemesh script, okay, and the commands inside it. So it's very different. It's also non-destructive if you want, and also destructive if you want. You can check it out in my store. So this is non-destructive, and as you can see, it's not using any modifier. It's non-destructive because it doesn't uh, destroy the topology or affect the topology of the source mesh. And as you can see, we're not using any modifier. This is using purely BMS script. Okay, so somebody confused this on making this trick because of the mark sharp status of the edges. And there's another team out there that has released a video about this method here, and they've confused it on the random final cut operator. But it's not to be confused because this is not using the same method as this one here. Okay, this is just using the mark sharp edges because it's much easier to use this method, because with mark seam, if we use this might confuse the user, because if he's using a source mesh that has already been UV'd, it might confuse him because of these edges here. Okay, because of the mark seam technique, so that's not possible. Well, how about the vertex group? So if we add this vertices to the vertex group, sure, we can select it. The script can seek it out. But if we add this, assign to, okay, delete that, select. If we assign these two, assign, and select, you can see that these edges are also selected because these vertices belong in the same vertex group. So that's not possible. So the only way to select this, to use this selection in this method, is to use the mark sharp status. Okay, so the modifiers know what they're gonna do, and also the script in Final Cut knows what to do. Okay, but that doesn't mean that the two are using the same technique. Okay, so let's get back to this. Let's just continue designing this. We can also create some variation like triangulation. When you're designing this kind of stuff, you can just forego topology, cleaning the topology, as you go along, and just economize, or yeah, economize the topology later on after you finish designing everything. Actually, let's clear sharp and use this mark sharp. There we go. So you can just continue designing and not be bothered with cleaning the topology at first. J to connect the two vertices within mark sharp. This mark sharp. Okay, this. So actually, iStools and Cuber has been using this technique, or has been available for those add-ons, for those add-ins to do before they were combined and became Creative Flow. So, oops, cursor selected. But back then, it wasn't as popular. Um, Everyone's too busy with Boolean, and it became unnoticed. But in the old archives, in the oldest archives of Blender Artists Forum, iStools and Cuber is already making this effect. And wait, you know what? You can also do this because this is just a plane. You can also create holes instead of using Boolean. You can just delete the faces. You can also do that. Uh, Check this out. What if we delete this? There we go. Before you eventually apply modifiers and make this a real mesh. You can use this and delete this. So you can also do that. Subtractive modeling. Oops. X and C to collapse. Okay, so let's do a last one. Let's use the knife and mark sharp. Let's clear this. Clear sharp and codify by extending this to this here. We'll also have triangles, but you know, we can leave it at that. And you can just fix it uh, after you finish designing the model if you want. Okay, so here's another trick with the add-ons. Actually, let's do the deletion on this one. Let's delete the faces. Whoops. Press B. Okay, so like that. Um, and let's add something here. And Y. Y mesh. WS. And WS to subdivide. Control E. And subdivide. And iterations to 1 to make a diamond faces. Then selecting every face. Extra solid inset. Clear the source. Whoops. Oh no. Wait. So I'm using this. Let's just use this. It's probably amount of face is probably too much, so let's use this part here. and just mirror it later on. Solid inset, none. Point 0.25. Oops. 0.02. Let's just do a single face, or this face is here. I wonder what's probably need to restart Blender. It's Control Shift X, solid inset, and there we go. 0.0015. Oops. Oh, it's using solidify. Maybe that's what. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, that's why it's an applied mesh. Okay, so sorry about that. Click flat faces, Control I, and delete the rest. Okay, now we can go and solid inset, none, delete the source object, and mirror this on the other side, auto mirror on the y-axis. Okay, so just a tiny break from this method to create an auxiliary design. Okay, so let's create another line here. Unmark sharp that, and delete this. Unmark this. Unmark sharp this. Okay, so oops. So this is how far you can do the uh, technique using this demonstrated process. Uh, demonstrated process, or and also with the and also manually using the modifier stack. But you can extend this workflow use in edit mode using the Creative Flow add-on. Go to edges, split sharp. This was once split M sharp in Ice Tools, but now it's split sharp. So what it will basically do is separate these faces um, that are bounded or have boundaries or have edge boundaries that are marked sharp. So this will be individual objects instead. Edit in edit mode and split M sharp. Okay. And this will also respect the mirror modifier. So instead of creating 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's split in the XY axis, it just created a single object because of the how the script is made to respect the mirror modifier. And now we can use the draw modifiers operator to bring to modify the thickness, solidify thickness and offset of each individual object to create differences in the height. You can still do each of these objects still has the modifier setup to create the effect. and you can still mark sharp this and create the intended effect. Let's raise this up a bit. So draw modifiers. You can either go for the thickness or the offset. There we go. And if you want to join the two, you can just click two objects, Control J, and select everything, and by distance, it get rid of the mark sharp, but you can just reestablish the mark sharp status. Okay. This thing here, we can join this thing, this thing, these objects as well. Control J, and mark delete the or remove the doubles by distance, so you can still edit it after you've split the mesh. We can do this. The same thing as before. J, separate this kind of effects. Mark sharp and mark sharp, clear sharp. Okay, so that is actually it for the technique. You can turn this into, let's just save 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can turn this into a real mesh, but first we have to disable the bevel, so it doesn't result with the applied mesh with the sharp edges being beveled. Okay, so select everything and micro bevel. Do not use the bevel modifier. Apply the mesh. Now this is a real mesh. You can select the vertices from the top and bottom part. And now selecting everything again, re-establish the bevel. Use bevel modifier and re-establish the mirror. You can, this can affect multiple objects actually. We're going to make the object that is mostly at the center part of the selection be the one that's going to supply the auto mirror coordinates. So we're going to mirror this part, and it will also be reflected with the other selected objects. Auto mirror XY. Here we go. Now you can see that. So it's pretty convenient method of mirroring. And now you can, without the, now it's not just a plane. Now it's a real object. And the advantage is that you can now push and pull faces. That you can't do before because the model's thickness is being supplied by modifier. It's just a simple plane. Whereas now it has thickness, and now you can affect the topology. The entire topology. Not just the, whoops. There we go. Alt H. I to inset. And there you go. We have extended the technique from let's load up the previous file. So this is the applied mesh. Remember to remove the bevel before applying. And let's get back to the original modifier setup. So you can keep this. So the only advantage in using the disadvantage in using this technique is because of the nature of the design. The cut will be replicated in the other side of the model, but of course, if when you're do retopologizing and creating a bake mesh for this, you don't have to include the faces for this part here, and just include it on the top faces and this one here. Same with things like character armor. If you're gonna use this for panel cut details and just bake the normals, you can of course do that. Just be sure to use the bevel modifier. To make it more apparent to the bake engine, you can of course increase the amount on bevel. Okay, so that is it for this video, and I hope you learned something. A new method using the creative flow. And if you have any questions, be sure to use the comment section and the links in the description. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.